So, this idea of surrender is really good. I so appreciate that that's the song that you chose to sing, because my talk today is about surrendering what was to make room for what's coming, for what is, and not like what's coming, oh, I know in the greater by and by, apple pie in the sky, or whatever that silly phrase is, but for what's emerging here. And you've heard me say before, it's a basic law of physics that two things cannot occupy the same place at the same time. So if we are holding on to our past, if we're holding on to our fear, if we're holding on to hatred or anger of whether it's a father or a mother or a political leader or any of that, then we don't have room for the good that wants to come through us. Because I believe that God is everywhere equally present. Everywhere equally present, as omniactive, omniscient, omnipresent, all life, all the time, right? Everywhere, all the time. So, but what I know is that it's easy to live in the past. It's easy to hold those, I got to make sure I'm not facing away from you. It's easy to hold those ideas that we have had and to allow them to navigate and negotiate the direction that we are going. And I know for sure that I have had conversations with people. I've spent an embarrassing amount of time having conversations with people who are not actually, present. And I don't mean like talking to spirits, but I mean someone might say something to me on Tuesday. I come up with a response on Wednesday. And Thursday, I've won the argument in like 3 different ways. And by the time Friday comes, I've delivered a closing statement so brilliant that everyone applauds and asks me if I'm running for office. So the problem is that the conversation ended 3 days ago, but I'm still carrying it on, right? I'm still scripting. And even worse, some of you might be foretelling confrontations. And so you have the idea of, okay, well, I have to have this conversation with the phone company, with the electric company, with my cable provider, with HBO, whatever it is, and you're already like, I'm ready. My dukes are up, and I'm going to win this, darn it. I'm going to win this argument. And you're having the argument with yourself, but by the time that call happens, whoa, you are armed for bear, and you are ready to take them down. So, by the way, it's not just with conversations, it happens with experiences too. And I've noticed that for myself, experiences don't just happen to me. Some of them end, but I don't let them leave. Like the meeting ends, the marriage ends, the job ends, the argument ends, the election ends, the betrayal ends, the disappointment ends, whatever it is, children grow up, the moment passes, but somehow I keep carrying it. Anybody here? Yeah, 3. Okay. That's why I kind of landed on this title for my talk today, which is Yesterday Ended Last Night-ish. Ish. The ish is really important because technically, yesterday did end at midnight. And emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, some of us are still dragging around all the stuff that's not the ish, or maybe it is the deep ish, from 1987. Like we're still holding it. We're still having those conversations. So we humans are really interesting because we have this remarkable ability to keep reliving these experiences long after they've been over and done. We replay conversations. We revisit disappointments. Oh, if that had only not happened. Well, it did. We rehearse old grievances. Why I oughta. We return to moments that no longer exist as though somehow we can renegotiate the outcome, right? If only, if only, if only. And before we know it, we're driving forward through life while we're staring into our rear view mirror. Now, rear view mirrors are important. They let us know where we've been, and it also helps us understand what is behind us, and hopefully we can learn from it, right? But a rear view mirror was never designed to be a windshield, nor was it designed to be a lens for what's in front of us as we are driving this vehicle called ourselves. So we spend so much of our lives looking backwards and wondering why the journey is so difficult. We wonder why it's so difficult. And the truth is that most of us are not living in this dynamic, creativity-laden present moment. This is the moment. The present moment is where all of the power lies. All of it, all of it, all of it. Everything is created from the present moment. So instead, we find ourselves living in an ongoing commentary about the past. And the commentary can get really heavy. You might have noticed. And people are really good at having those conversations with each other. Oh, do you remember that time when, oh God, yeah, I really remember. Oh my God. And then we're off, right? We are off to the races. Now, last week we talked about the weight of judgment, the weight of our opinions, the weight of our assumptions. And then we also talked about the weight of deciding. And this is, listen, I can only claim myself for this. But I like to decide who's right, who's wrong, who deserves forgiveness, because apparently not everybody does, who doesn't, who should have done better, and who should have known better, right? They should have known better. You ever hear yourself say, well, they should know better. They really should know better than that. They should. So we're going to broaden that conversation, as uncomfortable as it might have been last week. We're going to do it some more. Because we don't just carry judgment about other people. Those judgments are really about ourselves. Oh, ouch. So we carry regrets. We carry disappointments. Breathe. We carry old identities. We carry stories about who we are and who we are not. And this is where this idea of surrender comes in, so that we can begin. So my husband has this great definition of surrender. It's not giving up, it's opening up. It's opening up to that broader, greater knowing of who we are. And that's where surrender comes in. Because, some of us are still carrying around a mistake that we made 20 years ago. Others are carrying a wound that someone else inflicted a long time ago. Or we might be carrying an image of ourselves that no longer fits, but we're afraid to release because it's so familiar. It's so familiar. I know myself as being insecure and unsuccessful. Well, wait a minute. Really? Just because it's familiar? Just because it's familiar and you know yourself there? And what fascinates me is that most of the time, it's not what happened that causes our suffering. Hear that. It's not what happened. It's our relationship to what happened. It's the relationship. It's the story we tell. So, for example, that argument you had lasted 10 minutes, maybe. But the relationship with the argument probably lasts 10 years. The criticism lasted 30 seconds, maybe. Our relationship with the criticism lasts a lifetime. The disappointment came and went. But we built a guest room and invited it to stay, right? So, in essence, we become historians of our hurts. I remember when I was a little girl, and I had just been playing piano for a couple of years, and my mom and dad, of course, thought I was extremely prodigious and amazing and perfect and wonderful. And we had a family dinner, and my uncle, who was such a grouch, by the way, God, what a mean man he was. And my mom said, "Oh, don't you want to hear Sydney play piano?" No. Oh. When you're 7, you're not supposed to know how to curl up in a fetal position and wish for Chardonnay and chocolate. But so while there may be value in understanding our past, and I think there's great value, I think that, and I know there's no freedom in living there. There's no freedom living there. And I'm going to ask Christine to put the slide up. There's an African word that I've been living with for several years. And the word is Sankofa. So Sankofa means to look at the past, to respect the past, to learn from the past and invite it to become a tool for transformation, education, and guidance. Sankofa. Sankofa is what happens when we turn and face, facing the other direction. When we turn and face our history, all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrifying, the truly devastatingly uncomfortable, all of it. Sankofa is about both acknowledging our history and letting it guide our renewal and our evolution. So you can see the difference between the acknowledgement and the living in it, right? Sankofa. We are in a very Sankofa time right now. You know, you might have heard the phrase about history, that the more we ignore history, the more we are destined to repeat it. So this idea of Sankofa, the bird will come up again. We'll take it again. Put it back up there. Someone wants to take a picture. So yeah, we can put the bird back up. There's the bird, Sankofa. And if you Google Sankofa, you'll get a lot of information. Okay, we good? We got it? Cool. All right. So by the way, nature gets this more than we do. Nature understands this because trees don't spend all year negotiating with their dead leaves. Rivers don't stop flowing because they miss the water that passed by yesterday. I miss that. That water was so good. Don't you miss that water? It was really good. Every cell in our body participates in this process of Sankofa, of continual renewal. Life itself is always, always moving, always changing, always becoming. And yet, the universe never, ever repeats a moment. The universe doesn't do repeats. We do. You've heard me say this before, when we have these limitations or these complaints, or we go from one relationship to another relationship, and it's a different face and a different name, but the issues are the same, right? Second verse, same as the first, a little bit louder, a little bit worse. God help us when you get to the fourth or fifth one. Those are a lot of verses to repeat and to reinforce. So it's only you and I that stand in the middle of this ever-changing reality, this ever-changing, evolving, expansive, capital R reality, and we insist that yesterday's pains, yesterday's wounds, yesterday's fears and identities should still be running the show. Well, it worked yesterday. I didn't know I was going to talk about this. I remember, so I'm a horse kind of girl. I don't own horses anymore, but I used to. And I remember I was working with one of my instructors, my riding instructor, and I was on a different horse from the one I had been on the week before. And if you're a horse kind of person, you'll know this, and if not, just talk amongst yourselves for a moment. But she started yelling across the arena saying, "What are you doing? That doesn't work. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, it worked on the horse last week." And she said, "Ride the horse you're on." Whoa. We forget to ride the horse that we're on. What is the horse that you're on? What is the horse that you're actually riding? What is the relationship that are you having a relationship? This happens in marriage all the time. Sorry, Charlie, but it does. Mostly on my part, not yours. That I might be responding to something my husband has said with the mindset and the reference and the identity that I suddenly decided to rip out of my memory banks from the past, and suddenly he's like an old partner. And he's going, "What the?" Because my response might have nothing to do with what he said. Yet, yeah. By the way, this is only true here, not at home. Just don't get used to it. So that's the thing. It's because we respond to the people in the present as if they are the ones from the past. Because our old buttons, our old triggers are still there. We haven't fully surrendered them and disconnected them, right? So it's a very interesting thing. Yeah, I still love you. Thank you for loving me. So today is Father's Day, and Father's Day is one of those times that can remind us how complicated our relationship with the past can be, right? For some people, this day might be filled with gratitude. For others, it might be filled with grief, disappointment, unresolved questions. Some of us had fathers who were very loving and present. Some of us had fathers who weren't. Some of us had fathers who did the best they could. Some of us had fathers who did not do the best they could because they would have done better, we think. Some of us had fathers who were absent. Some had fathers who left behind gifts. Some left us with wounds. And actually, I'm thinking most fathers probably left us with a little bit of all of the above, because that's kind of the nature of family. That's the nature of relationship, that we are connected with each other. We inspire each other to grow. We reflect our stuff so that we can heal our stuff. It's just that the dynamic most of us have in relationship is not that this person is reflecting something back to me so I can heal it, I can reveal it, I can heal it, and I can transform it and make it good. Most of us are in relationship and we say, this person is a jerk. We don't say he's reflecting back or she's reflecting back. We say, this person is really problematic. I may have to get rid of them. I may have to leave. I'll change them. That's what I'll do. I'll change them. Instead of recognizing that they are simply a reflection of those beliefs that we have about ourselves. Oh my God. We have inherited stories. And some of those stories have strengthened us, some have limited us, and some of I'm going to say all of them have helped us become who we are. Whether it's at a place of, wow, I'm really loving my life, or wow, I am ready to see emergence, opening, and change and shift. Because where we are right here and right now is where we are right here and right now. And as I said earlier, all the power in the universe is in this present moment. This present moment. So I believe that a lot of the stories we inherited and carrying are ripe for release. And you may be thinking of some stuff right now that's ripe for release. Because, spiritual maturity is not about denying our history in any way, shape, or form. Spiritual maturity is deciding what we will continue to carry from that history. What are we going to continue? What will we continue to carry? And at some point, we have to ask, does this still serve me? Does this story serve my growth? Does this story still reflect who I am and what I want for my life? Or maybe I'm simply serving the story and assigning it the role of actively creating my present life and my future life, because that's what we do. Because thoughts held in mind respond in kind, right? Thoughts held in mind, and that's a basic premise of this teaching. It's very, very simplified, but it's cause and effect. Those ideas, those beliefs, those things that we think constantly, habitually, and reinforce over and over and talk about over and over with great passion and great energy and great conviction and commitment, those are the things that keep creating more of those things. Now, how's that working for you? Are you creating what you want, or are you creating more of what you don't want because yesterday you didn't want it, yet now you got to talk about it and just run that line about, can you believe what a jerk this guy is, right? And we do that. We all do that because we're human. We love our stories. Oh my God, I love my stories so much. I have lots of them, and I love my stories. So this week, probably like a lot of you, watched the celebrations that honored the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. And just the fact that you're responding that way tells me that you might have had some of the same reactions and feelings that I did. And these are feelings I haven't had for a while. As I listened to the music, to the tributes, to all of the speeches, I remembered what it was like to have hope and a sense of faith in what the ideals and principles of democracy represent. I don't know if you remember a book that Barack Obama wrote years ago called The Audacity of Hope. And I found myself in a place of audacity. And this isn't about partisan, this isn't about politics, this is about democracy. And I did not realize how asleep I had become and how jaded and cynical I had become. And I have quite a muscle around spiritual and social activism. I mean, I don't want to say check my Facebook page because you'll probably never come back to church. But I have some very strong commitments to being a presence of transformation and supporting people in their growth and compassionately loving them through what they are doing, what they're going through, and being a space for peace. I have a big commitment to that. And so, I show up. I show up. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to show up. I just know that I do, because it means a lot to me. I'll just go on. So one of our longtime teachers here in religious science is a woman by the name of Dr. Sue Rubin. Now, I've known Dr. Sue Rubin since the mid-'80s, when she was Reverend Sue, and she has been a minister probably since the '70s. She's in her 90s now, and she is a strong and powerful standard bearer for spiritual principle. And I was blown away when I heard her speak about 2 months ago at an installation ceremony that I was a part of. And she stood and she just leveled everybody with spiritual truth. And it was so good. I remembered how I felt the first time I heard her. And it was that sense of hope and inspiration and aliveness. There was aliveness there. And I thought, I want that. I want that aliveness. And my giving voice to that gave birth to my own aliveness. That's what I get. Because when we acknowledge it, it's as if we are calling it, we are calling it forth. We are calling forth the truth of who we are. We are calling it forth. It's not from out here, it's from within here. But sometimes we have to have that flame fanned so it can shine brighter. So, Sue Rubin shared these words on Friday. My faith tradition is religious science and the teachings of Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind. When I started studying these universal truth principles in the mid-'70s, the human conditions we took into spiritual practice and prayer were related to restoring our personal health, increasing our prosperity, and experiencing loving relationships, and maybe our creativity. It was a very self-focused teaching. Discord beyond our personal parameters was of minor interest, and that's true because I came into this teaching in the late 60s, early 70s. Political abuse of power, war, global warming, and tariffs were out there, but they were happening to other people in other cities, other states, and other nations. Now, every main street in America is becoming aware that democracy is dangerously devolving. And every day's new occurrence makes it hard to turn a blind eye. Just before you all go run screaming for the doors, let me just say that the thing because I do a lot of equity training with people, and I work with them in terms of healing their racist beliefs, their racism, and moving into a place where we can walk forward together and understand the journey that our brothers and sisters have gone through, whether they are of another color or perhaps a different gender orientation, right? So I have done a lot of training in this, and I work with other people, and I'm always saying, please teach me, because I know I have so much more to learn. But here's the example. I'm a white girl from Newport Beach. My husband is white. Our son is white. He's now 27, but as he was growing up, no matter where we lived, whether it was here in the valley or up in Oregon, we never had to worry about him walking down the street wearing a hoodie, ever. Now, if you are not a white person and you have a child who wears a hoodie, you've had to have the conversation. You've had to have that talk with them about not everybody loves and accepts you as I do. And that's something that we as white people have to understand. And if you're uncomfortable, congratulations, so am I. That's where we get to be. That's where we get to be, because that's what democracy means, is that we all step into a greater understanding of each other's discomfort, fear, hurt, marginalization, and pain, so that we can all be a hand of love, of privilege, of upreach, of uplift. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. You can hate me if you want. That's okay. I have no problem with that. So Sue continues. I believe my faith tradition can no longer continue to exclusively be used to feather my own nest. It's time to practice steely spirituality, with a willingness to boldly face and embody the needs of these times and happenings. And so this is her affirmation. And as I'm reading this now, I'm thinking I want to turn this into something that we can each have perhaps next week and use, if we want, as a claim to a commitment. She said, I stopped trying to right the outer wrongs, and instead I make sure I am consciously in right relationship with my God source. My motivation is consistently inspired from my inseparable oneness with God. From this sacred inner space, I cultivate a quiet mind, a compassionate heart, a purposeful soul. Every unlawful, abusive, and dangerous headline is my call to prayer, affirming, as Ernest Holmes wrote, the supremacy of spiritual thought force over any and all conditions. Each new day finds me first in silent receptivity to being ready, resourced, and relevant in all that I undertake. And as I pray aright and I pray without ceasing, then my courage rises to meet God as me, God as all. I know that I am and all are already richly imbued with infinite wisdom, love, and resilience. I add my voice to those who are already moving forward as the freedom fighters of today. So infinite integrity, boldness, authenticity, sanity, love, and law awaken my remembrance of who I am and what I eternally am and why I'm here. And that's exactly what the experience was for me as I watched the opening and the celebration of the Presidential Center. It reminded me, I haven't cried about music in a long time, and I'm a musician, and I have this mushy, gushy heart, but I have become so protective of it because I see people experiencing pain and suffering, and I know I can't be everywhere present. I know God can, and I know I can do some things, but sometimes it can be shocking. It can be shocking when I see children being ripped from their mother's arms. That's shocking. And I choose now to wake up. I am choosing to wake up. You know, there's a phrase in New Thought that says open at the top. And that's not just pretty words. That means that this teaching is now growing. The teaching is growing. It is constantly unfolding. And now we have moved from God as a vending machine, or God, as Dr. Mark used to say, somewhere a mix between a bellhop, Santa Claus, and a hitman, where we say, God, please smite this person, where we no longer do that. We've moved from God as the vending machine and instantly like that, at our command, to God as this presence, this loving presence that we are here to embody, to emulate, to express. That's the maturity. That means open at the top. So it means that we surrender those lesser thoughts, those old ideas about God here, God there, into God as you, me, all of it. That's what we are here to surrender. Now, it does start with the individual. We start with our individual experience. We reveal the stuff that we have going on so that we can move into a greater embracing of others, a greater embracing of wholeness. So it's Father's Day, so you know what that means. We're going to do a bit of a process here. And this is a forgiveness process, so definitely lock the doors. Forgiveness is about no longer being identified, limited, and constrained by that which happened. Yesterday ended last night, and we begin today to know ourselves as those creative, infinite, resilient, beautiful, newly born beings. So, what I'm going to invite you to do is take a breath. Okay, let me turn to that. I had way too many pages. La 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 la. It's pretty good. A lot of Sankofa stuff in here. Okay, here we are. Now, I would like each of us, so we're going to have each other, we are each going to behave as proxies for each other. Your father, your mother, that person, that situation may be long in the past. They may have been off this planet for years, or maybe in another state, or you're not talking to them, or whatever that relationship is, or maybe they're just waiting for you out in the car. I don't know. But here it is. I want each of us to turn to someone near you, and you're going to say them, and this comes from the oneness that we all are. Nobody's turning. Look at each other Everybody pick a partner. Pick a partner. Pick one. You'll have a chance to do it several times, so just pick one person. Pick one person. And what I want you to do is turn to that person and say, for whatever they did or whatever I have done, please forgive them and please forgive me. I'll say it again. For whatever they did or whatever I have done, please forgive them and please forgive me. Now say it like you mean it. For whatever they did or whatever I have done, please forgive them, please forgive me. Now, if you were the person who just listened or you didn't say it at the same time, go ahead and say it back to them. And now you get to use them as your proxy, okay? For whatever they did or whatever I have done, please forgive them and please forgive me. This is what you can hold in your heart for the rest of the day. For whatever they have done, whatever I did, please forgive them and please forgive me. This is huge. This is huge. Because as we give it up, as we release it, we create space. Going back to what I said before, that two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. We want that space to be occupied by possibility and love so that our own lives may go forward peacefully in wholeness so that we can begin to reflect that in the world. That's how we create in the world, is by starting here, but we don't stop here. So forgiveness is not just an act of self-love and self-wholeness. It's an act of healing for the world. And I'm thinking we all recognize, no matter who we voted for, no matter if we are red or blue or purple or whatever, that the world could certainly benefit by more wholeness. Don't you think? Okay. So what I want you to remember is just because we do that, then something wonderful is happening here. Something wonderful is happening within us, each of us, right here and right now. Something wonderful is happening because we have chosen to open to a new space and to surrender and let go of that which no longer serves us. Let's pray. Thank you. All right. So we turn within and joyfully admit to a greater emergence. How wonderful it is to know that we are part of an emergence, a birth, an expression, and we are audacious in that. We agree to wake up and to allow hope and joy and possibility to be that which guides us. Blessing the past so that we might bless the future. And we bless this church, we bless all churches, all paths to God. All of them, all temples, mosques, ashrams, synagogues, cathedrals, wherever people gather together, we know that the light shines brighter, and life takes place. We are blessed by it. We are grateful. And so it is. And together we say, amen.